Hello, good evening, college-bound families, and welcome PUSD board candidates to our PUSD board election Q&A. Can you hear me okay? Just nod, okay.
Yep.
Candidates, we're honored that you're spending time with college-bound tonight. My name is John Driver, and I'm the co-moderator along with Chris Henry. I'm a college-bound parent of Jackson Driver, a senior at Poway High School. Chris Henry is also a college-bound parent. His son is Damon Henry, a junior at Rancho Bernardo High School. Tonight, we welcome 4 candidates vying for 2 available seats on the PUSD school board. Candidates for the PUSD Trustee Area A board seat are incumbent Dr. Darshana Patel and challenger Mr. Tim Doherty. Area A encompasses Abraxas High School, Meadowbrook Middle School, as well as Creekside, Morning Creek, Pomerado, Shoal Creek, and Valley Elementary Schools. Candidates for the PUSD Trustee Area E board seat are Mr. Jimmy Karam and Dr. Cindy Sitzma. Both are vying for the board seat that will be vacated by Kimberly Beatty, who is not running for re-election. Area E encompasses Del Norte High School, Oak Valley Middle School, as well as Del Sur, Design 39, Monterey Ridge, Stone Ranch, and Turtleback Elementary Schools. Please allow me to cover the ground rules now. We ask all college-bound parents to mute themselves on Zoom during the candidates' introductions and the first 2 questions I will ask them. During the general Q&A session that follows, we ask that you all stay on mute until you are called on by Mr. Henry to ask your question. We will begin with each candidate taking no more than 3 minutes to introduce themselves. During each candidate's response tonight, Mr. Henry will indicate when there are 60 seconds and 15 seconds remaining. Thank you, Vanna White. For the introductions, we will go in alphabetical order by last name for each trustee area. For the first question, the order will be Mr. Doherty and Dr. Patel for Area A, and Mr. Karam and Dr. Sitzma for Area E. We'll reverse the order for the second question. After the introductions, I will ask the candidates 2 questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. After each candidate answers these 2 questions, we will open the questioning up to the audience. If you have a question, please enter your question using the Zoom chat feature by clicking on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. When it is your turn, Mr. Henry will call on you to ask your question. As a courtesy to all and in the interest of time, please make your question clear and succinct, and please make it be a question. You may direct your question to a particular candidate or to all candidates. Due to time constraints, we may not get to all of the questions. If your question is to a specific candidate, that candidate will answer your question first. Then the other 3 candidates will have an opportunity to answer that same question. Candidates will be given 90 seconds to answer these follow-on questions from the audience. Candidates, are you ready? Okay. Thanks for your attention. Let's get started. Forewarning, these 2 questions are not softballs. So I hope you have your thinking cap on. Here we go. Question number 1.
John?
Yes?
Sorry, John, did you want to give them a chance to do their introductions?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just couldn't wait to throw those fastballs. So yeah, thank you, Chris Henry. So let's start with our first intro. The first intro will be Mr. Doherty. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, thank you. So hi everybody, yes, thanks, it's Tim Doherty, thanks, you got my name right, that's great, thank you, appreciate it. I grew up in southern New Jersey, and I came from a small family of business owners and teachers and coaches, and I've been here in San Diego for over 20 years. I have 2 daughters in the school system, and I'm a dad of a dual income family. I'm a concerned parent with a skill set that can hopefully improve the school systems. I have 2 degrees in engineering. I have an undergrad in mechanical engineering from Lehigh and University in Pennsylvania. I also have a master's in healthcare systems engineering, also from Lehigh. And I've been solving large-scale, complex problems in the private sector for over 20 years. I've also been a teacher, a business operator myself, a coach, a wrestling coach for years, currently a softball coach in T-ball. I'm also an adjunct at the University of San Diego. I teach an engineering course once a year. My full-time job is I currently manage a multi-million-dollar global supply chain for one of the more successful businesses, family businesses in Southern California. And so I'm in this race because I see 3 very monumental challenges facing the district. We have reopening and post-COVID learning, budget and funding, and facilities and land use. And so for reopening, parents spoke, and over 60% of us need to be back on campus weeks ago. And it's very important to get those kids back full-time. Right now, the current plan for elementary is only 62% of the time on campus. Budget and funding, we've had a few straight years, for 3 straight years of worsening deficit, and we're currently spending with future revenues. Like manufacturing and healthcare, we need to apply proven methodologies like continuous improvement, lean, Six Sigma type methodologies to squeeze costs out of the systems. The facilities, we all know the bond measure that failed, and we got to get back into that and figure out plan B. I believe in the 80-20 rule, and that you need to spend your time proportionally. We have to focus on the first things first, and the others will benefit from getting those straight. I'll approach these things by keeping the best interest of the trustee area. I'll work for true partnerships with local businesses. We need to help each other now more than ever. I'll be transparent, clear, upfront, and accessible to the district, and I'll use pragmatic, data-driven approaches to do that. Difficult decisions are on the way, and I can help make those decisions. Thank you very much. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty, and thank you for finishing in exactly 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Our next candidate is Dr. Patel.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Willis, and thank you to Mr. Driver and Mr. Henry for being moderators. As many of you know, my name is Darshana Patel. I'm a first-generation American, civic-minded scientist, parent, and community leader dedicated to educational excellence in PUSD. I'm also the first person of color to serve on the Poway Board of Education since its inception in 1962. My 3 daughters attend Park Village Elementary, Mesa Verde Middle, and Westview High. It has been a great honor to serve you in our school community over the past almost 4 years. My top 3 priorities are student equity and access in educational programs, social emotional wellness for our students, and advocacy for adequate public school funding at the local and state level. I invite you to read more details on my website, patelforpusd.wordpress.com. Since being elected to the board in 2016, I've been working effectively every day. When I was elected, we were facing many challenges, like a corrupt superintendent, poor fiscal oversight, and an education system that was not meeting the needs of all of our students. In the last 4 years, we've made significant improvements, such as adopting best practices with our finance and governance policies, starting anti-bias training for our staff, and building and expanding modern educational programs for our students. While tackling these issues, I've earned my master's in board governance from California School Boards Association. This is important to point out because as a candidate, you think you understand the problems and how to fix them, but you don't really grasp how complex and highly regulated public education is. In my first term, I've gotten to know our communities by attending school events and community meetings like College Bound. As a board member, I took a lead role in revising our district vision and mission, adopting a culturally inclusive school calendar, developing our facilities master plan, and introducing board resolutions that align with our community values. I've served as clerk, vice president, and president of our board, and I currently serve as a delegate to the California School Boards Association. I'm dedicated, trusted, and experienced. There are some critical issues the board will address this year and in coming years, like building a partnership with Palomar College, addressing facility needs, and improving food and nutrition. But it's all far away because right now there are more acute challenges like using science to inform our decisions regarding COVID-19 and confronting systemic racism. The challenges we face require proven leadership by an elected official with a track record of understanding complex issues, listening to families, and making informed decisions. I've been recognized by the San Diego County School Boards Association with the First Term School Board Member of the Year Award. I'm endorsed by PFT and PSEA because they know I'm the collaborative partner in doing what's best for our kids. It takes time to build relationships and trust. The positive changes we want to see can only be realized with a collaborative strategy and sustained effort. I would be honored to earn your support once again to continue serving our students and community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Our next candidate is Mr. Karam.
Hello, college-bound families. I'm really excited to be here, so thank you for having me. I'm 46 years old and I want to play in the NFL, so I'm going to call Mr. Sayers and see if he can help me out. No, seriously, my name is Jimmy Karam. I'm running for school board. It's District East, the south side of Poway, and a little bit of Sabre Springs as well. I've been, my family and I have been in Poway Unified since 2007. We have 4 children. So Verena and I have two older children gone all the way through the system, through Creekside and Garden Road Elementary, all the way through Poway High School. I have a 9th grader in Poway High School, and then I have a 2nd grader at Garden Road Elementary. So we're kind of here for the long haul. We really enjoy Poway Unified, and I think my skill set that I bring to the table is something that's unique, and that our school board hasn't really had the pleasure of experiencing some of my skill set. I'm a retired military officer, so I'm a huge advocate for military families, especially those in transit. Let's see what else I do. So I'm a program manager for a defense contractor. So I bring a whole skill set of business skills that we don't currently have on the board. I'm also a adjunct professor at Palomar. I teach economics. And right now I'm teaching a couple courses at Escondido High as part of the dual enrollment program. That's something that, we could definitely leverage in Poway Unified for sure. So my skill set is I plan to talk to the students as part of this. I wanted to kind of share my background, which I haven't done in any of these forums. So I thought I'd take a few seconds to talk about that. I basically grew up in Stockton, California. I was one of those kids that was bused across town. And I think out of 400 students that I graduated with, I was like one of six white kids. And I say white, but I grew up in an Arabic speaking family. I'm a first generation Palestinian American, but you wouldn't know that by the look of my skin color. But I learned a lot in that. And I instead of going to college, I went to the military. And the military taught me a lot. And I learned about all different types of people. I learned how to study. I got really good at it. And I ended up in the United States Naval Academy, and I graduated from there. And so I got 6 seconds. So real quick. So my point there is that it took me a long time to get there. So adversity and persevering is just kind of something I learned throughout growing up and in my career. And I really appreciate all the skills that the military had to offer me. Real quick, my education, I'm a graduate from the United States Naval Academy. I have an MBA from USC, and I have another master's degree in performance psychology. And so I spent the last 2 years helping out Poway Unified by volunteering at the Poway High, was basic Poway High football team as their leadership and mental skills coach. My biggest platform, if you go to my website, you can see my platform there, but the biggest one that I really want to advocate for is anti-racism and dealing with anti-racism and also social inequity. So those are 2 things I hold near and dear to my heart. And so I'm looking for your support and your vote. Again, my name is Jimmy Karam. Please visit my website for more information. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Karam. And I have to apologize. I was informed that I have been mispronouncing Dr. Seitzma's name. So apologize for that. You're up.
No offense taken. Thank you so much. Like he said, my name is Cindy Seitzma. I grew up in Penasquitos and attended Poway Unified from kindergarten through my graduation at Mount Carmel. I have a bachelor's in criminology. I graduated from the San Diego Sheriff's Academy. I have 2 teaching credentials, a master's in education, and a PhD in human services. My husband and I moved to Poway 18 years ago. I have a daughter in 8th grade at Twin Peaks and a son in 4th grade at Garden Road. I began my professional journey as a correctional deputy for the San Diego Sheriff's Department. I then transitioned to teaching, where I taught in both general and special education within San Diego Unified. During my time in K-12, I held numerous positions at both middle and high school. After earning my doctorate, I slowly transitioned to the university level. For the past 16 years, I have been a professor at National University, teaching in both teacher credentialing and bachelor and master's courses in criminal justice. I have presented at educational conferences all over the world and have several publications. My research and interests range from graduation rates to supports for teachers and youth leadership. Over the past 8 years, I have served as an executive board member with Garden Roads PTA. I have supported many events at Twin Peaks, and I have also been a substitute teacher at Garden Road. My dedication to kids extends well beyond the school day. I have been a Girl Scout leader, a scorekeeper with Little League, helped with Cub Scouts, youth theater, and Taekwondo. I am incredibly proud of the long list of amazing things I have done with my Scouts, to include co-presenting at 2 professional conferences. I am committed to continuing to improve general and special education to ensure that all of our students have equal opportunities to a quality education. I am committed to building community involvement. We need to continue to bring community partners together and work towards shared goals with transparency. And I am committed to fostering inclusivity and equity. By fostering inclusivity and equity, we can guarantee that every child has a solid foundation to build their future. I have dedicated most of my adult life to schools and children's programs. I know that my work with students of all abilities and ages puts me in a position to advocate for every child. I know the struggles that teachers face, and I understand the need for volunteers and financial giving. I have a successful track record of dedication, passion, working cohesively with a team, transparency, and follow through. There is not a teacher on the school board, and there hasn't been one in quite some time. It would be a great honor to be able to continue to make a positive impact for children on a greater scale, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma. Okay, now we can move on to the question, which I was so anxious to throw out there. So here's the first question. PUSD adopted an anti-racism resolution earlier this year, which publicly affirmed the district's commitment to fighting racism and correcting systemic inequity. District data also shows a measurable and substantial achievement gap for students that are Black, Indigenous, or persons of color, BIPOC. Do you believe there are systemic issues of racial injustice present in the school district? If no, please explain your position. If yes, what will you do in your role as a school board member to address this? Mr. Doherty, you are first. You have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is obviously at the forefront of what's going on today and at the school. And yeah, I think, you know, it's a good step forward. You know, with the resolution in June, I think we're on the right track. I'm anxious to see what comes forward at the I think the second draft of the
Here we go. Here's my questions.
The comprehensive plan.
I'm sorry, we seem to have lost you, Mr. Doherty. You're muted.
Did you have me at the beginning?
Yes.
What
yeah.
happened?
You know, I think we should allow Mr. Doherty to start over because his
There was a little. I got one of the students came on for a second there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but
Right,
sorry about that.
I apologize. What I did is I muted everyone because someone was coming on. So yes, please restart.
Let's restart the timer, Mr. Henry.
No problem.
Parents, please mute your phones or your devices, please. Thank you.
So where I was heading is that, you know, I like where the district's heading, for sure. You know, what came out in June with the resolution, Some great things in there. I think there's a lot of work to be done. You know, I had a good conversation with Dr. Willis a couple of weeks ago, and you know, learning about the organization and the school district. I mean, I've been here in San Diego 20 years, but new to the district, and you know, the district's come a long way, but there's probably a lot of ways to go, and I think that's evident in a lot of things that have come with the Instagram account, et cetera. And as far as the achievement gap goes, you know, there's data there, I'm sure, that can recognize, you know, if there are achievement gaps, you know, that's a big problem to unravel and understand. And if, you know, if there's systemic problems in the systems and the processes that are out there right now, I think what the resolution will do is, I think what the keys was examine and confront. Were the two words that came out to me. I think the confrontation part of it is, you know, a lot of the community conversations we're having, but I do want to see more of the examination and understanding of unraveling, you know, the statistics and how long they've been going on in the district itself, and get to root cause and not treat symptoms. As an engineer, that's what we train to do, is get to the root causes and not treat symptoms. And I'm anxious to understand more about that once the comprehensive plan comes to the board, and we start really digging into it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Dr. Patel.
Yes, as the co-author and the board member that introduced Resolution 116-2020 for confronting racism and systemic inequality in our district, this is very important and near and dear to my heart. Since I joined the board in 2016, I've been taking a look at this, a hard look at it, been attending college-bound meetings, wanting to find ways to increase opportunities for our students in any way possible. I think one of the important things that we look at is starting with our cultural proficiency. One of the first things I did as a board member is we introduced a culturally responsive school calendar in our district. We had never had something like that before. So teachers were scheduling holidays or scheduling field trips and away things on holidays. And when we start there, then we start to go through and look at what are we doing to be not inclusive. So we started looking at that, but we were kind of going slow. The school district was taking it all slowly. We worked with the ADL, with No Place for Hate, and we started doing that a year ago. It was this summer with the killing of George Floyd and looking a close examination of racial justice in our country. We know there's systemic racism. We see it all over the place. It's in our communities, it's at the federal level, it's at our local level. So we also know that there are impacts to students when there's systemic racism. Some things that the district is closely examining is our hiring practices. We want our staff to represent our community and form relationships with our community. We know that that will make a difference.
Dr. Patel, your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Karam.
Yeah, so I was very pleased with the resolution that was passed. And I was also even more pleased to see all the steps that were taken throughout the summer since June. But I have a slightly different approach to something I would like to see happen. When I first saw Black in PUSD, I was taken back. I have kids that went through Poway High. I knew systemic racism was there. I grew up with systemic racism. I know it exists. But then what I think really needs to be paid attention, which nobody's really talking about, is making sure that our children, our students have a safe place to be heard. Help them find a safe environment where they can find their voices and they can speak their truth. And that's what Black in PUSD was. What I propose to do when I hopefully I become a board member is to impose a safe place program. It's very similar to what they have in the Naval Academy, where basically staff and faculty get extra training, and then they go through a certification program, and then they get like a placard that says safe place. So when students have issues or they have microaggressions or something terrible happens, they have multiple choices that they can go to, and they can talk to someone that they trust. And then those teachers, those trained staff will be able to point them in the right direction. There's certain protocols that are followed depending if they want to be anonymous or not. But the point is that they have a safe place to go to, and that their issue, that the trouble that they're dealing with can be dealt with, and they know that they have help. They know they have a supportive culture that's there to back. They have a community that is there to help them out. And I think once we do that, we give our students a nurturing and supportive culture.
Thank you, Mr. Karam. Your time is up. Okay, Dr. Seitzma.
Thank you. Yeah, I've recently read the in greater detail the plan that was proposed by the board, or passed by the board in June, the racial equity and inclusion plan. I really like the direction that this is going in. We've had the No Place for Hate, but I think the No Place for Hate it needs to be expanded out to all of our levels and include curriculum from kindergarten on up. Just the younger that we can introduce, you know, racial equity to all of our levels, the more educated they're going to be. An educated and informed individual, however young, is the start to, you know, eradicating racism. I have a group of young ladies that I work with, my Girl Scout troop. These are all 8th graders, and we actually just a week ago completed an anti-racism support group plan that we plan to, how we are going to support one another, how we are going to look out for each other. And they have to all sign this. We're going to send it to them digitally because we can't see each other right now. But a lot of them, it's a multiracial troop, and a lot of them have shared some of their concerns. And I've told them I have looked at the Instagram site, and I've had a lot of them bring some concerns to me that have been very alarming. So, you know, I want to make sure that all of our kids have a safe opportunity to get through schools, and it's listening to them and continuing these steps for safety.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma. I know the 90 seconds goes fast, doesn't it? Okay, now we're going to move on to our second question. And Dr. Seitzma, this time you're going to be first. Question number 2. Proposition 16 is asking California voters to bring affirmative action back to public schools, including colleges and universities and government work. Supporters of Proposition 16 say it would help balance the scales, but critics say it could hurt. What is your position on Proposition 16?
That's a good one. I am all for, you know, balancing the scales. I think that it needs to be done in the right way too. You know, intentionally, when you have an opening, intentionally picking up the phone and asking for someone if they're interested in filling a position, if it helps to give, you know, a broader base in terms of equity and ethnicity in your the dynamics of your group. I think it would be helpful to our young people to see you know, a large base of diversity to look up to in the various communities that they live in the programs that they participate in. So I don't think that it would tip the scales in the wrong direction. I think that it would help to balance the scales.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Karam.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of it. I'm actually a product of affirmative action. That's the reason why I got my break coming out of high school, and then it was a prep school that was a affirmative action program that I took advantage of, and I got accepted to the program, and here I am today. So I'm all for it, because I know we're not all created equal in the sense of where we're born and what environment we're into. We can all use the help. Some people have it easier than others, but I think we all need to again provide that supportive culture and environment to allow every student to prosper. So basically, you know, it's up to us as a community leaders to be able to give all the resources necessary to each individual to be successful, and that's not always the same for everyone. So I'm in support of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Karam. Dr. Patel.
Yes, so Prop 16, it's also known as ACA 5, and it was sponsored by the beloved, well-respected Dr. Shirley Weber. I'm a big fan of hers. I've met her a couple times up in Sacramento. It passed with overwhelming support in the House and the Senate with bipartisan support. And California is one of only 9 states that doesn't have any kind of affirmative action to help fight discrimination. So yes, I'm in support of Prop 16. It's our chance to change all of this discrimination by ending the ban and expanding opportunity for all. But that being said, there are a lot of myths and misunderstandings about Prop 16, especially in the Asian community, and I've been discussing that with them. They think that it's some kind of reverse discrimination or that it's going to result in quotas. We know that's not true. We know that Prop 16 will also help women as well as minorities. We know that we need to expand our diversity in higher education as well as in the workplace and in government contracts. It's going to help all around. Lastly, I do want to point out that Prop 16 passage is very important to Poway Unified because it will help synergize with our racial equity and inclusion plan, because as a public school, we'll be able to actively recruit and do outreach and modify our strategies for recruitment and outreach so that we could hire to reflect our community's demographics and values. And so it's very important for all of us to support Prop 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Mr. Doherty. Doherty, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, we go.
Sorry. So yeah, I'm trying to get up to speed on these issues, and for sure, you know, Prop 16 is one that's very controversial, and you know, the wording and different groups look at it different ways. From what I understand, you know, there's already verbiage in the Constitution that was put into place, you know, not actually too long ago, that actually, you know, prevents discrimination and focuses on the merit of people to get jobs. So it seems to me like that's already in place, and repealing it, you know, something that a lot of time and energy was spent putting into that, wouldn't make a lot of sense. Now, you know, again, I got a few weeks here to understand it better, if I'm understanding it wrong, but it sounds like what's already in place in the Constitution for the state is already prevents discrimination. So thanks.
Great, thank you. Candidates, thank you very much for your introductions and your answers to those two prepared questions. We're now going to open up the questions to the audience. And as I said earlier,
All right.
if you have a question, you should enter it in the chat. And Mr. Henry will call on you to ask your question. Please keep it clear and concise, and please make it a question, not an opinion. Thank you.
Excellent. So our first question is from Stephanie Watson, and parents and Stephanie, can you introduce yourselves, the college found way, you know, who you are, who your scholar is, what grade and school they go to? That'd be great. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Henry. Actually, the first question was from the Willis Irvine family. The Wills
Did I
Irvine.
miss one?
Sorry, from the Wills Irvine family.
Yeah. Sorry, I totally missed that. It was kind of embedded in the middle of the students leaving for the breakout room. All right, Ms. Watson, we'll come back to you. Let's talk to the Wills Irvine family first.
Hi, thank you, and good evening, candidates. My question really has to do with the teachers in the district and the administrators. I'm wondering what the percentage is of Black teachers in PUSD, and if you know, and what is your plan to increase the number of teachers of color?
All right, maybe John will start back with the original order.
Any candidate who wants to answer, you can go ahead.
I can start with that. I don't know the exact number. I know it's just not high enough. I know it's part of the resolution that was just passed in June, and the way that works is that as trustees, our job is to hold the superintendent accountable, and the way we do that is by setting goals for the superintendent, and those can be measured goals as well. And I think they're in the process of doing that right now. Darshana could probably kind of tell us exactly where we're at in that process. But the point is, what we do as trustees is include that in our goals and give her a target to hit, and then you would just hold her accountable based on her performance ability to actually meet that goal. But I can tell you right now that the percentage is pretty low and it's not high enough.
Okay, thank you. Next candidate.
I'll speak. I don't know the exact percentage either. I can say that, you know, just at our little elementary school, Garden Road, I think there's only a couple of teachers who are ethnically diverse, and none of the teachers there are actually, one of the instructional aides is Black. But you know, in terms of, you know, broadening the ethnic pool, you know, I have applied myself through the district, and it's like the top 3 candidates get pushed on to the school, and then the principal bring those in, and that's how they interview. You know, what information about the candidate gets pushed through. I'm not sure exactly. But, I think, if we need, as I mentioned in my, at the last question, we need to be a little bit more intentional with, who we're looking at, qualified candidates, but expanding our diversity pool for, for the sake of our students, for all of our students. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next candidate.
Hi, so I don't know the exact number. I'm actually pulling up a chart because I think it's sometimes informative to actually know the numbers. So for ethnicity district-wide employees, for African American, we have 0.09% in administrators, 1% in classified staff, 0.47% in teachers and counselors. So that's total district-wide 1.67. And that's information that I have access to that my colleague, my fellow candidates may not have access to. So I do know that that number does not reflect our student population. And we know that that's not okay. That's why we need to work on all of these strategies together. We need that racial equity and inclusion plan. That plan will be presented at the board meeting this week, and there's a strategy in that plan. It's not something the board members came up with, it's a community collaborative plan. So it's bringing in key stakeholders from across the district, and that's very important too. So we know that there are problems there, but we know that's not where the problems, if we fix that or if we start to address that, that's not the end. There's a lot more work we have to do. And we know studies show that children do well, all children do well when the staff is diverse. It benefits all children. There are countless studies that show that. So we know the numbers aren't good enough now, but we have a plan to make it work. And I know with our community holding us accountable, this is definitely possible. We can do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Mr. Doherty.
Yes, I think it's like Dr. Patel said, I think it's like 0.5% actually. So something like, 4 times the students than the teachers, at least for African Americans is my notes here. And it should be better aligned. And I think, hopefully what'll come out of the comprehensive plan is understanding, what the processes and procedures are for hiring folks. And, if there's proof that, qualified candidates were overlooked, that's a big problem. Okay. If there's proof that, a lot of you maybe are in sales, right? That sales funnel, right? If you start here with this many people you're advertising to, and you got to get the qualified candidates or candidates period, and then qualified candidates and select from them. So, perhaps it's a matter of not casting that net wide enough, or not providing not providing enough incentive to bring people from other places of the world, or at least the United States or the state. So perhaps that's something that'll come out of these these investigations, and maybe we'll understand that we need to cast that net wider, or do some certain things to attract good qualified candidates. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Dr. Willis, it's 7:55. Do we have time for one more question, or do you want us to?
No, we can keep going. I've already, okay. I'm going to bring the classrooms back. They'll come back quietly, but we can keep going as long as the candidates are okay.
Okay, all right. Mr. Henry, do you have the next question?
I do. Is Stephanie Watson still on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right, go, you're up.
Okay, so my question is to any candidate that wants to answer. I'm just trying to find out, when it comes to students that are involved in special education services who are struggling with the virtual online school, what is the plan that is in place or that is being developed to help them with the services that they may need beyond what's given in the schools already? For example, now that they're doing more online, tutoring services may need to be offered either at low cost or no cost to the families.
Whatever candidate wants to start first, please go ahead.
So I can jump there. I don't have a comprehensive answer, but I know this is a question that so many parents out there have. What I would recommend, of course, we need to provide these services. I would hate to see our children fall behind. They're already falling behind. We know that. So reach out to your case manager and and let them know your concern. If you do have an IEP, you can call an IEP meeting. I think it's very important to exercise that right. Go ahead and do that. Schedule a meeting with staff. And if you don't get the response that you want, feel free to reach out to me or any other board member. We will make sure you get in contact with Mr. Greg Mizell, our Associate Superintendent of Learning Support Services. You should be getting all the services possible. And I know there are ways, if we can't offer them, there may be a way we can put you in touch with someone that can get them for you. So don't feel like you're helpless here. Please reach out and we can connect you with the right people. I feel very passionate about that. We can't let our kids fall behind. And for our students with disabilities, we are starting to get them on campus if possible. But I also understand that some of our students with disabilities, there's vulnerability with them returning to campus. So we need to keep that in mind as well. That option isn't available to all of our students. It's not the same for all of them. So reach out, please.
And just a quick,
Dr. Patel, who's, if someone else.
Yeah, just a quick important announcement. Parents, check the chat. That's where you're going to text who you are voting for, the scholar's name for each grade level. You're going to text it to James. The phone number is in there. I'll post it again. Thank you.
Okay, next candidate.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in. I have been privileged over the last almost, well, month and a half now. I've been working as a long-term sub at Garden Road in the resource program. So we have been, it's been such a unique experience doing the virtual small pull-out groups and being pushed into some of the general ed classrooms to support the kids if it was appropriate to push in virtually with them. Today was the first day back. We were so excited to see the kids. But with right now, I'm at the elementary. Of course, secondary is still on hold. We've spent all day today grappling with redoing the whole schedule because a lot of the kids are electing to come back in person, but that time has to be opposite of when they're physically in person with their classroom teacher. So that means there have to be 2 drop-offs and 2 pickups. But we are guaranteeing to all the parents that we are going to get all their minutes in, and and then some if it's needed. And if in person isn't the right fit for them still, then we've got instructional aides and teachers that are set aside to be doing the small group pull-out still virtually in line with what we have been doing. But yeah, we've been conversing with parents daily, and we've already had a couple of addendums scheduled for a student from parents that have requested, I am concerned, and the virtual it has been hard, especially with our kids with special needs. So, reach out to your child's case manager for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma. Next candidate, please.
Yeah, this is Jimmy. I'm not an expert in special ed, but I am an ally for special ed, and I know these are difficult problems to figure out what's the right fit for each family, whether it's online or not. I'm a big advocate for speaking for those that need help. I've always talked about I'm a certified mental performance consultant, so this has nothing to do with special ed, but it does have to do with regular general education and a lot of students that are struggling. So I am an advocate for getting more counselors through internship programs I've talked about before, but also let's start using our technology and doing like one-on-ones with telehealth and just getting the help out there to the students that are struggling. I'm really big on helping students learn how to deal with adversity, how to deal with anxiety, and just giving them different coping mechanisms. And I think that's something that all students can benefit from. So the initiative that I've been trying to push is to leverage strategic partners in the community and use those students that are at those universities who need hours in counseling, whether it's social work, whether it's just as counselors, and then let's get them into POW Unified under a strategic umbrella and give access to our students. So I'm a big advocate for that. It's cost effective, it works, I've seen it happen. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Mr. Karam. And finally, Mr. Doherty.
Yeah, so this is a big, a big problem. I mean, there's I think over 5,500 students with learning disabilities in the school system. And the biggest challenge right now is lost time or trying to make up time. Right next to that is specialized human resources, right? That's our biggest challenge right now, and configuring and understanding the total resource pool for for the whole school system, and how to optimize those schedules and get the right supervision and the right type of supervision in the right place at the right time. And it must seem insurmountable. We heard some of that in the last board meeting. You know, I would say one thing that's kind of up my alley, and I understand, is that, you know, there's tons of businesses in the community, maybe not tons, but several businesses in the community that have solved these types of problems for years. You know, there's manufacturing businesses. There's Northrop Grumman, General Atomics. You know, some other companies that I've worked for before that specialize in operations research and solving these complex problems. And there's got to be help from them available. There's also universities like the University of San Diego. They do a program with their students each year. Maybe they could help. There's also consultants out there. But I'd also say, first and foremost, is that we should be talking about summer learning. Everything needs to be on the table at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Mr. Henry, do we have another question?
We have a couple of questions, and I'm going to skip around a little bit. Let's go to Mr. Venters. Sorry. Are you on still, Ben?
Ephraim Venters?
All right.
Are you there? Not really.
Not really.
How about now? How about now?
Yeah. There you are. Perfect.
Okay. It's adjusting a few mics, unmuting here and there. All right. So my name is Ephraim Venters. I'm Ben Venters' dad, Naval Academy class of '98, Jimmy. Hey, I got a question. So Brian Stevenson, he's an American lawyer. You're familiar with him, social justice activist, director and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative. In his discussion with the president of Harvard, mentioned that a lot of what's going on with this unequal bias and a lot affecting the teachers in the classrooms, it's affected our textbooks and that sort of thing, getting in the way of or perpetuating these narratives that are getting in the way of kids really getting an equal shake in the classroom, which is really what we're talking about, right? An equal shake in the classroom, nobody getting a benefit, but an equal shake to everyone else. We know the textbooks are expensive, and it's expensive to change those things. So my question to the candidates would be, with old resources in the classroom in general, what are some suggestions that you would have for updating the thinking of our educators as they try to educate our kids to behave differently or to change the environment to give people a more equal shake in the classroom? That's my thinking. I hope that was clear.
Thank you, Mr. Venters. Who would like to go first?
I'll respond. I know that there is curriculum textbooks, they're adopted. So, you know, that there is a process there. But I also know that my husband was a part of a committee within the district that he sat down and he was listening to, you know, a variety of things. And one of that was on the resources that are used in the classroom, with, you know, funding being a concern, and coupled with what the students are saying is that a lot of the teachers, to include my own daughter says that the textbooks are basically obsolete. Why did I have to go pick them up? We never use them. Is that because most of the teachers are using supplemental materials. So I think that, you know, what the district needs to look at is if there can be a significant cost savings from, you know, the textbooks. I think some textbooks are timeless, and you need them for like math and such. But, you know, a lot of the other teachers are not using that. But, you know, what are the supplemental materials? Are there ebooks that are being updated to reflect, you know, the current pool that we want to be representing in our classrooms? That all needs to be looked at. But I think we can maybe look at just steering away from textbooks in general, because as the kids are saying, they're not using them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma.
I can follow up with that. We know we have lots of open source materials that we have access to. I think the challenge with when teachers are using their own adapted supplemental texts, we're having inconsistency. So I would like to see some consistency within what supplemental texts we're offering, and we can use open source. And when we're looking at our literature selections, for example, we don't have to now adopt whole literature textbooks. We can look at text excerpts, and we could do that through photocopies, or we could do that through online text resources. So we're in a different era now. We don't have to stick to pages and paper. We really don't need to do that anymore. And I would add that it's not just history and social science and literature that we need to examine our texts and examine bias in the text. I can tell you a story. My own daughter was so excited in her math book, elementary school, when some of the problems involved kids with Indian names, Sanjay or Kavita having math problems. That was so exciting for her. She related to that. So we're doing a little better in California than we do in other places. We're slowly coming along. It's not just a matter of balancing the textbooks, but it's also retraining the teachers. So we need to do both of them at the same time. There needs to be a both-sided approach. The teachers also need to know where they can access those materials to ensure consistency. So there are many options out there now, and we've already started adopting open source textbooks, and I think that's a good lower cost option.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, I'll add on to that. So the everything Dr. Patel said about the curriculum is right on. They're also part of the anti-racial resolution that we passed was ethnic studies and ethnic literature coming, that we're kind of reviewing that material. I know California has a big ethnic studies curriculum initiative they're trying to get passed. It just got vetoed by the governor, but they're going to go back, I'm sure, to the drawing board and figure that out. Another thing I was really impressed with what the district's doing is that they're partnering with the San Diego County of Education to provide school sites with equity coaches for ongoing professional learning for the staff. I think it's important that our staff's also culturally sensitive to what they're saying to our students and how that may affect them positively or negatively in that case. So I think we are going in the right direction to make those changes. I do agree that our curriculum does need to be updated. In my class, when I teach economics, I have my students purchase just a license to access the ebooks because there's so much more you can do with the ebook, and it's just easier to pull around campus, if you will. And last thing I'll leave you off with, that is class of 2000. So thanks for making me the midshipman that I was.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Karam, excuse me, Mr. Doherty.
Yeah, so I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, even beyond the content, but I'll say with the content of textbooks and whatever it is, yeah, I hope there's a good gap analysis that continues from the resolution and continually improve. That's kind of the name of the game, right? And so hopefully that happens. And I think it's actually got my wheels turning. Maybe this is the tip of the iceberg, where maybe in the near future of learning and out further, maybe we're offering more online courses for the older kids or the middle school kids and above that stay online. And so with that, we've been talking about flipping the classroom for years, and I don't think that it's really happened, but maybe this is a catalyst for that, and maybe we can start developing content that gives the kids the equal shake you're talking about, but is repeatable and reproducible in that format. So yeah, maybe this is a catalyst for the phase out of spending tons and tons of money on textbooks and into something that's more technology based. So with that, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Unfortunately, that's going to be the last question that we're going to be able to take live. However, what we're going to do, since we have all of the questions saved in the chat, hopefully, we're going to send the unanswered questions to all the candidates tonight. And we'd like you to reply with your answers by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And we will share your answers with the College Bound family. So yes, you're getting homework. No problem, right? So hey, thank you very much, Mr. Doherty, Dr. Patel, Mr. Karam, Dr. Seitzma, and thank you to all of the College Bound family for the insightful questions and your attention. I'll now pass it on back over to Dr. Willis.
Thank you so very, very much. And we are going to wrap up. And Mr. Driver, you may not have gotten this message, but I'd just like to ask each candidate in one sentence, why should we cast our vote for you? One sentence, 10 seconds. We'll start first.
I don't have a card for that.
I know. We'll start first with Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty.
One sentence. I'd say I'm the guy with expert problem solving expertise and business experience that can get things done and solve problems.
Thank you. Dr. Patel.
I'm the candidate that's been here every day, waking up every day, thinking about our kids and what we can do to make our education better for our kids, fighting for resources, making sure we get what we need. I know that we have work to do, and I want to be the one to help you get there. Thank you.
Thank you. And am I pronouncing this right, Mr. Karam?
Yes, that's correct. My name's Jimmy Karam, and I care. I truly care for our kids. I care for our community. It's in my blood to serve my community, so I would love nothing more than to serve this this community once again for another 4 years.
Thank you. And Dr. Seitzma, am I saying it right?
Yeah, you are. Great job. I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to education and children's programs. And when I considered this, running for the candidate position, I wasn't so sure that, I was up for it. But the more I thought about it, anytime someone asks me about what I think about education and children's programs, I have no problem with jumping in. And that's where my confidence level is. And that's where my passion is giving back to kids in every which way. And I would love the opportunity to be able to make a greater impact on kids on a greater scale.
Thank you all very, very much. And I want to give a round of applause to our co-moderators, Mr. John Driver and Mr. Chris Henry. They were just amazing, and we appreciate them. They're our dads, very dedicated, and we appreciate all the comments. And we know that we went over, and again, but we thought that this was very, very important to have not only, well, I guess in response to civic engagement and civic responsibility, to have not only our college-bound candidates speak, but also the Poway Unified School District, because as we said earlier, it's not about just voting for the president. Yes, that is important, but it's important for all the local elections. There are 2 positions open, as Mr. Driver said in the beginning. Only 2 of these candidates will move on. So it's important that we cast our votes on November 3rd, or you could, if you haven't already done so.